What's up, everybody? I'm Eric Thoreau, and welcome to this week's live Q&A here on Facebook. So I'll just give it a few seconds here for the live attendance to come in. Once again this week, we're going to talk about what just transpired this week, the opening weekend for the Arena Football League's 32nd season. So if you have any questions, conversations, just go ahead and chat them around. Reaction down below in the comments as you're watching the live stream from wherever you are. Also, I would like to know what city you are located in and what your local team is that you like to be representing. So, let's go ahead and talk about this upcoming weekend. Let's start with the Baltimore Brigade hosting the Washington Valor. Now, it happened on Friday evening at Royal Farms Arena. The final score was Baltimore coming out victorious this time, getting, I guess you could say, their so-called revenge on the Valor. You know, everybody's saying it's a revenge from the Arena Bowl last year, but Arena Bowl is a whole different scope of game, and that's not revenge. The only way it would be a true revenge if it was Baltimore and Washington in the Arena Bowl this year again, whether being back in Royal Farms or whether being at Capital One Arena and then Baltimore winning that game. That would be the revenge. This is just week one of the season opener. Both teams, basically all six teams that you could say, are dusty, especially the expansion teams, or the one expansion team and the one returning team, are quite dusty. The players, even on the new teams that are playing this year, are kind of rusty, so everybody had to shake off some cobwebs, to get everything going and get in the flow of things. I think you could tell that within like the first quarter and a half, how there were a lot of some fundamental errors, players working together for the first time on the same team as a unit. A lot of the team players were returning. You had, I guess, like Joe Hills, since we're talking about the Baltimore-Washington game, Joe Hills coming to play for Baltimore. Shane Boyd finally taking to the realm of the quarterback, as Baltimore had lost their quarterback from last year, and Randy Hippard, who now is over at the expansion Atlantic City Blackjacks. Randy's rejoining his coach from Tampa Bay, and Ron James, so he's getting back to the old stomping grounds there, so basically Atlantic City becoming almost like the Tampa Bay Storm, I guess you could say. But, yeah, with Baltimore, what can I say? I'm impressed in the solid quality team. Omar Smith, I know him personally, like I've mentioned in the past, that I know him personally from being out here in San Jose and being with the SaberCats, and then seen him a couple times in our arch rival team with the Arizona Rattlers. But then, I know him personally, and he's a great guy, great coach. He gets the most out of his players. Even when he was a player himself in the backfield, he was actually in the old school of AFL days when actually he was a defensive specialist. And then he also played offensive side of the ball too, sometimes when he wasn't defensive specialist for the SaberCats. And also that one year that he went over to Tampa Bay in 2003 and won his second Arena Bowl there, and then returned home to finish out his playing days with the SaberCats. So with that said, he's a great leader of the team. He knows how to work with the team, but yet also what it takes to be a great leader of an organization, of a team, is having the mindset to listen, and to be open-minded to change, open-minded for change. And his first step in doing that when he became coach, or actually became an actual head coach, was with the LA Kiss. He assessed the situation there, and he knew what was going on there, because the year prior to taking the realm over in the LA Kiss, he was assistant offensive coach with the SaberCats for, I think, was it 2 years? And then before that, he was defensive side of the coach with the Arizona Rattlers for 2 years. So he's got coaching experience on both sides of the ball, which could only lead to better ways for him in the Baltimore Brigade. And he's opened up in his experiences as being the head coach of the LA Kiss and he actually had that franchise on the turnaround. They made their first ever franchise appearance in the playoffs. They unfortunately came up short. They had to travel down to San Diego to play at the old San Diego Sports Arena, Valley View Casino Arena, I think that's what it's called. And then they played the Cleveland Gladiators, who won, and then went to play in the conference championship against the Arizona Rattlers, and then fell out short, and then Arizona Rattlers eventually went to the Arena Bowl and fell short to the Philadelphia Soul in 2016 in Glendale. So, with that said, Baltimore is looked to possibly repeat and go back to the Arena Bowl this year. The postseason is the same as last season. The difference is now since we have 2 additional teams, instead of being, top 4 being all 4, not every team's going to make the postseason this year. There'll be 2 teams that will not make it this year. And then the 4 teams that do make it, it will be a playoff situation, with aggregate scoring. So a home and home kind of thing, and then whoever has the most points, scored for those 2 games will advance to the Arena Bowl. My disappointment takeaway, from the game is actually with the lack of promotion that's going on with Baltimore. I'm seeing on social media, the various social media accounts, from some people that are in the Baltimore area that they don't even know that the brigade exists. There needs to be more of an outreach for that team. I know I think either the day before the game, or maybe the day of the game, because they had an evening start, 7 p.m. start there in Baltimore, that they went to the local sports station. That's rushing it. People hear it, but they may already have plans for that night. So you got to billboard your promotions. And what I mean about billboard, because I've had some radio experience, billboarding means you're telling something's coming up. I don't know if you ever listen to the radio and they'll say, like, coming up in the next half hour, we have so-and-so. Or if it's music, stay tuned for, this song and this artist or whatever. And it's not coming up next or the second song, it's coming up ahead. But yeah, that's billboard. Or they say, stay tuned to win your tickets to this concert or whatever event. That's billboarding. And that's in advance. And what the brigade need to do is not just doing the same day, but they need to advertise days in advance. We have our schedules out. They should be advertising the schedule for the home games for the entire season, especially then targeting the specific upcoming upcoming game. Like this Friday, the Baltimore Brigade are hosting who is it? The Philadelphia Soul. So, with that said, the Philadelphia Soul are going in there, and then you should be advertising, say, okay, we're, playing the team that we eliminated for the right to the Arena Bowl last season, and then you can use that as a marketing scheme to get more hype into the game, and get more people, and they should be starting to do that as of today. And I don't mean like just posting some kind of fancy graphic on social media. I don't mean relying on the OTT platform that Monumental has, because the OTT platforms out there, whether it be, his MSN, or whether it be YouTube, whether it be Vimeo, or what have you, or Facebook Watch, are not mainstream yet. You have to advertise on regular TV, most likely like over-the-air networks. You cannot do what's called run of station, which is ROS in broadcast terms. And run of station usually means it's the most affordable time of day to broadcast a commercial, to have a commercial air. And the run of station usually is like the 10 o'clock hour till 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then you got the morning drive and the afternoon drive, where the two was costly, because that's technically when people listen to the stations mostly. And that's where you get the most out of your commercial or ad that you run on a radio station or on a TV station. Wow, you can tell this is live. I should have disabled that ringer. Sorry about that. If you can hear it in the background. Excuse me. But yeah. So, with that said, if anybody has any questions, once again, go ahead and feel free to put them in. Hopefully I can see him here on this comment section here. But basically, yeah, that's what I think needs to happen. Like they said, they're saying that Baltimore is a great market for arena football. I know from just a general football stand, they're crazy about the Baltimore Ravens. I know they could be crazy about the Baltimore Orioles. So I know they have, I think it was the University of Maryland Terrapins. So I know there's a lot of football craze. There's supposed to be football craze in that area, the DMV area. It just needs to get out. Once you get a ticket out there, it's going to be very affordable. Yes, we got it. So where do you think the AFL will expand next? Basically, if you want to look expansion, I know it's early. The pattern is, as they started last year, they had the Northeast. So last year they had Albany, New York, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore, Maryland. So this year they add Atlantic City, sort of to conclude, I guess you could say the Northeast corridor. I know there's still markets like, say, Buffalo, New York, which used to have, is the original location where the Destroyers started from before they moved to Columbus in 2004. But there also was, back in the day, the Connecticut Coyotes, I think there were. And then there's also was the New England Seawolves that played up there in the Northeast. I think they played in Boston. So Boston, like I said, is another. So Buffalo and Boston, maybe the only last two, maybe New York City, bring the New York Dragons back to Long Island, and they have remodeled Nassau Coliseum. From my understanding, the ownership group of the New York Dragons, when they were involved in the league in 2008, were interested in doing a remodel of the Nassau Coliseum like it has been done, and then remodeling the area around there, like to bring like shops and restaurants and so forth, make it more of an attraction for people to attend events at Nassau Coliseum, and especially, of course, the New York Dragons football games there. So New York Dragons are a legend with having one of the best of all time in arena football history in QBs, and that was Aaron Garcia. So, and he's a great guy. He spent time here with the SaberCats, and he's a Northern California guy. So I got times to talk with him there, and also down when I covered the LA Kiss, when he was down there in LA Kiss, and when he came over as a head coach from the Las Vegas Outlaws. But to get to your question, Erica, and I want to thank you for your question. Also, you're also following me, as far as for helping me out with reporting from Philadelphia Soul. So I'll get to that a little bit, announcement a little bit. But expansion, I could see expansion going to, well, not really expansion, but Cleveland Gladiators. I believe they're returning next year. So that's not really an expansion, but you could say it's expanding in number of teams participating. I see Detroit. Now, if you recall, back when Scott Patera was in his last year of the commissioner of the league, Detroit was in talks with the AFL already, whether it be with Patera, with Jaworski, what have you. They were in talk, and now, but what they did is Little Caesars Arena being a brand new facility, and they're now for the first time in I don't know how many years, are bringing together the Detroit Pistons of the NBA and the Detroit Red Wings of the NHL into one facility. And the management company who manages the arena to book those events of those two teams first, and then any other teams or any other events that, like concerts or what have you, to go forward, wanted to wait for at least the building to be in operation for 2 full years with those two teams before adding another tenant. But they were highly, highly interested in adding an AFL attendant or maybe a National Lacrosse or maybe both or one or the other. And I think it's more favoring towards an arena football league going back to Detroit. So I see Detroit, and that is in the general region of, like, say, Columbus and Cleveland. So that's in the general region there. And then, not to add any speculation, but I did see, how it was been rumored saying that they saw the Columbus Destroyers name being trademarked in the trademark office in D.C. back on January 4th of this year. Well, I also saw on the exact same date the Grand Rapids Rampage name being trademarked by the Arena Football League. So with the way they're doing the regional thing, I could see Detroit coming in and also Grand Rapids coming in next year. and that's the regional with Cleveland. So that'll be the 3 teams. They're saying between 4 and 6 teams coming next year. So that means we'll have between 10 and 12 teams next year. So if you look at the return of Cleveland and then expanding to Detroit and then to Grand Rapids, I think Cleveland, Dan Gilbert will be owning the Gladiators like he still does. He still has the rights to them. He could do that, and then he may somehow be part of the ownership for the Columbus Destroyers, so he could own the Ohio teams. And then Dan DeVos, I forget his name, Dan DeVos, I think his name is. He was the last owner of Grand Rapids, but he's heavily into the Detroit area as well. And maybe with, I can't remember his name, but the owner of the Detroit Red Wings, who is also owner of like Little Caesars Pizza and of course Little Caesars Arena, him and DeVos could possibly be the ownership of the Detroit AFL team and the Grand Rapids Rampage. The Detroit team, it'll be cool if they bring back the Fury or the Detroit Drive name. That'll be cool. Maybe the Fury will be a good name. To try to keep the integrity going like they did with the Grand Rapids, or with the Columbus Destroyers, bringing back the Destroyer brand, bring back the Fury, bring back the Rampage. Great names, and of history for the league. So that's the general area. If I'm going for a 4th team, some say Cincinnati, because the Cincinnati, Rockers were around for I think 1 or 2 years back in 1991. But I think having a 3rd team in Ohio may be too much. If you know the geographic location between Cleveland and Columbus, if you were to drive to those games, it's roughly between 2 and 2.5 hours, maybe depending on traffic. But if you take between Cleveland and say Pittsburgh, it's about the same, going east. I'm not sure between Columbus and Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh could be, bring back the Pittsburgh Power. Now this is all just answering Eric's question about expansion. This is how I see it going. So I know they do need the overall picture is they need to expand. They need to get a nationwide footprint, and that will help with a national TV deal better. I know a lot of people are saying TV deals, and all that stuff. The way they've done it so far with this first week is great. Every team has their own local station broadcasting all 12 games, so there's not going to be a game missed on TV. And then I guess both the Monumental Sports Network and the AFL app stuff will take the feed from the TV stations and broadcast, so that way it does look more professional, and just tap into the feed and then stream it. So, we saw the graphics and everything, and they're calling it the AFL Network or whatever. Do you think the AFL will go into Newark, New Jersey to play at the Prudential Center? Possibly, it could be, but like I said, they may, and this is from David Loeb. Thanks for your question. Yeah, and you're an avid Soul fan. I see you on Instagram and all that, especially on Facebook. Here on Facebook. So with that, initial thoughts was to go into Newark, and play at the Prudential Center. I know the owner of the New Jersey Devils, I believe it is. He is like into major real estate, and I think he owns the property where the Times Union Center, or the arena, the Times Union Center is, in Albany. So, and there was some kind of correlation there when he had his minor league hockey team move from there to somewhere else. I forget where it moved to, but in order to make way for the Albany Empire return. So that was kind of some kind of coincidence there, and the respect that he also owns the Philadelphia 76ers, by the way. So he owns the 76ers of the NBA and the Devils of the NHL. So there's speculation that he could be interested, but we don't know if there has been talk of him of late, of any kind of news for Newark to come into play. Like I said, the Northeast Corridor, I think, is pretty much taken care of, at least for the foreseeable future. With the way they expanded to Columbus this year, I think that's the next phase in expansion, is to hit sort of like the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes states area. Whether it be Chicago, whether it be bringing back Minnesota, because I know Minnesota had a team back there back today. You may laugh about this, but they were called the Minnesota Fighting Pike. So, and that was back in the mid-90s, I believe. But initial thoughts are Grand Rapids, Detroit, Cleveland as the first top three. And then if I would say anything else, maybe go a little bit south, so that way you could sort of chip away and start going to the southwest, like the Texas corridor, Oklahoma, and that general area in the next year or two after this, 2021, 2022 expansion. So if you go south, I would say Louisville, because they have the brand new arena there called, I guess, what's it called, the KFC Center. So that could be a new arena, and you don't see any conflicts really, because the only big thing going there in Louisville, well, actually, it's two things, but one is more like a Hall of Fame for Louisville Slugger, and Kansas City. So Kansas City coming back, of course they won't. Kansas City Brigade, not going to happen. But if they come back, they'll either come back with a fresh branding, or they'll come back with the Kansas City Command. But I see if Kansas City comes back, they'll come back with a fresh branding, because Command didn't really establish any true history there. They're only there for 2 years, and they ended up folding shop. And the fans weren't really happy with losing the Brigade name to go to the Command in the first place on the relaunch of the league back in 2010. So that's where I see it. So next year I see mainly Grand Rapids, Rampage returning, Detroit returning as a market, whether it be the Fury or the Drive or a whole new team there, branding there. Cleveland returning on expanding, and then so those are three, and then possibly Pittsburgh, whether it be the Power or whether it be a brand new name. And I'm sure they'll probably try to do the black and yellow there in Pittsburgh. Maybe Texas. Texas will be, thanks for your comment there, Tom. And everybody knows Tom, if you see his comment there. He's a former co-host of Inside the Nation back when we first initiated the show back in 2016. Texas is a great thing. San Antonio, Dallas may be a tough one, because now you even got the XFL trying to go into the Dallas-Arlington area to play at the Rangers Stadium. And that's, Jerry Jones territory kind of thing. I think Mark Cuban was kind of interested, and maybe the owner of the Stars were interested too, to play there at the American Airlines Arena. San Antonio, Austin, bring back the Austin Wranglers, possibly. I know Dallas had three stints in the AFL. They first had the Fort Worth Cavalry, and then they had the Dallas Desperados, and then they had the Dallas Vigilantes, and then you got the Texas Terror down in Houston. Then they changed their name to the Houston Thunder Bears, so they played there. So maybe bring back Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. That could be a great little corridor right there. Or if you bring back Dallas, and then Oklahoma City, whether Tulsa. So there's, in that general area, there's a lot of specs, you could do. Bring back Tulsa Talons, maybe, or San Antonio Talons, or whatever, or bring back the Oklahoma team, which was either the Oklahoma City Yard Dogs, which just played 1 year in the AFL, but otherwise they were the AF2 team, and the other Oklahoma franchise that played there was the Oklahoma Wranglers back in the day. So, those are great markets, but like you said, they expanded first to Columbus this year, so I'm thinking the next marketing ploy they're going to is into that Ohio Valley region, and maybe around the Great Lakes region, for expansion. So with the return of Cleveland, that puts you right by the Great Lakes, closer to the Great Lakes region, and still be in Ohio. So I'm thinking Cleveland, Grand Rapids, and Detroit for next season as three of the teams of the supposedly between 4 and 6. The fourth team, like I said, it's up in the air. Who knows? It could be between Pittsburgh, because then you got Pittsburgh and we got Philly and the Pennsylvania Keystone State. So let's see here. Tommy said, even though California is a big state, maybe a while too far west. Yeah, California is too far west right now, Tom. I don't see anything really west of the Rocky Mountains. Like I said, they're doing regional, so they got the Northeast corridor pretty much locked up. They're now, with the touch of Columbus and the Ohio Valley, so you got to think Ohio Valley area, Great Lakes states. So you got like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan, and that general area. And then you could go a little bit farther, even maybe you work around south, unless they're going to keep it up like in the northern part of the state. If you were to basically take a line halfway horizontal and cut the United States in half, that might be as far south as they go. As maybe being Washington, D.C., being as far south, and then it's drawing a straight parallel line, flat line across towards California. If they do it that way, then yeah, you got Cleveland, you got Pittsburgh, you got Detroit, you got Grand Rapids as markets, and you got Minnesota as a market. And then the Green Bay Blizzard have a good key core fan, and then IFL, would they make a good team and a great market for AFL? I doubt it. Maybe. I know it's kind of tough there. I know they're Packer lovers there, so maybe. What else? And then you got, if you go further west, and you got Spokane, bring back the Spokane Shock. I know the owner of the Spokane Shock or Empire basically gave up his rights to the Spokane Empire name, so that way it could be, the Albany Empire. So, and in return, the AFL traded the Spokane Shock back to Spokane. So they got the rights to Spokane Shock over there in Spokane. And of course, everybody knows how diehard those fans in the Goal Line Bandits were in the history of the AFL, coming from the AF2. So, and they had great turnouts every year in the AFL. And then you got the new arena or the remodeling of the Key Arena there in Seattle, because they're getting ready to have an expansion hockey team there. So you could go with Seattle too, and then bring back Portland. I know Portland's had, very hesitant, and the AFL that extremely bad taste in the Portland market, but Portland has great fans. If you do it right, you do it. And I hope if they do decide to go back to Portland, whatever bills are owed by the league, I already hope that that's already been done, because I know they left the city of Portland high and dry, was owing some bills. I hope they go back to them and pay them off. But yeah, Portland will be a great market, and I think you could say Colorado, a big cutoff too there, so you could hit Denver and bring back the Colorado Crush, or the Denver Dynamite, if you want to go back to the very first year of the Arena Football League. So that's where I look for in markets. Ray things. Do you think I already answered that, David. Yeah. Newark. Like I said, I think the Northeast Corridor is kind of done for expansion right now. I think the next, if they did add one more team in the Northeast Corridor, I would say Long Island, New York, and bring a team back to New York. I know they have an indoor football team playing near Brooklyn area, the New York Streets, I think their team is. Yeah, they're in the NAL, and they play in some indoor football. So they're an indoor football team. But yeah, bring back the New York Dragons to the Nassau Coliseum, and bring back arena football to New York, or New York City area. They already have the arena football team up in Albany, so that's where I can see the expansion going. I know this is a long-winded thing, and got a couple minutes left here in the live stream, trying to keep it around 35 minutes long. But those are some great questions. I know everybody's anxious to have this league grow and get more teams everywhere, to build more rivalries, to be able to possibly travel within financial means, travel to these other cities to gain more experiences, to meet more fans, and the interaction is great. If Tom is still watching, him and I traveled, up to Portland. We traveled to Anaheim. We did some great fans. And of course, the fans came to San Jose for the SaberCats games, and we welcomed them. It's just great fans, especially during the Arena Bowl. We had to travel for the last Arena Bowl for the SaberCats, and that was up in Stockton. That's like 2 hours. Yeah, grow smart, grow careful. Yeah. And Tom, I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but the new model they're trying to do is like MLS, where, if you know, right now we have 6 teams in the league right now. All 6 teams are now owned by the league. Even with Monumental, the Brigade, all teams, that's how they're doing things right now. So it's an MLS thing. And then if they do find, proper ownership groups to buy ownership into the league, whether owning the team outright or whether just going and investing in the league itself, that's how they're working it. Hopefully in near episode of Inside the Nation, I'll have Commissioner Randall Boyle on. He's been one commissioner that I could not get on. I think I had access to Jerry Curtis, and of course I had Commissioner Scott Patera on Inside the Nation. So I look forward to that as I'm getting ready to wrap this live show up. I know, remember, our Facebook Live Q&A, and it's for questions like this that I'm seeing here in the comments. It's basically what this show is about. So I want to thank everybody who came across and enjoyed their day or their evening and joining me in Inside the Nation Live. Facebook, we'll have another one next week, same time, 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then coming up this week, I'll have the return of Inside the Nation, the regular show. Unfortunately, with the scheduling of the games coming on really rapidly on me and then having to prepare to get ready to cover them. And also, I want to make a quick announcement that if he's still here, Eric Williamson is now the local staff writer for the Philadelphia Soul for Ninth Man Nation. So he's going to be covering the Ninth Man Nation for us and be the Philly Soul representative there. And he did a great job with his first game covering. So only great things could happen. And if you're in your other markets, I'm still looking for Albany, somebody in the Albany area, the capital region. I'm looking for somebody in Baltimore. I'm looking for somebody in Washington, D.C. So that's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, those 3 markets I'm still looking at. I already have somebody for Columbus. So, and Columbus doesn't have their first home game until May 18th against the Albany Empire. So, but if you're in the Albany, New York area, Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. area, and you want to go to Arena Football League game and cover it, take pictures, write some articles, get some stats, and then contribute to the Ninth Man Nation website, I would greatly appreciate it if you could reach out to me over on the website, ninthmannation.net, and you can hit the contact us link, or you could go to the contributors and contact me through the contributors link, or here on social media. Just hit me on the DM here on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. So, thanks for the comment, Eric. I read the great job, Eric, and I read that, but it's Tom. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for watching this week's Facebook Live Q&A, and I'll see you next week at the game, after the games. Talk to you later.